There's a fear that every person in this world is a genius. Believe it or not, we've accomplished an experiment that proves it. Actually, it wasn't the first experiment we've accomplished in Project Elijah, but the results are so amazing that I can't wait, but I need to share it with you. Every practitioner of lucid dreaming and out-of-body experience, the phase state, encountered in this state many amazing things. For example, people could hear music. And this is amazing because you don't hear it from outside. It is created directly in your mind. And it is amazing that there's something in our brain that is capable of recreating sometimes high quality music. You don't just hear it. Sometimes it sounds in very high quality. Sometimes you know that this music does not exist in real world, but you understand that it is maybe the best music you've ever heard. And in the search for this resource that helps us to do amazing things, we asked people, practitioners of the phase state, try to hear music in the phase. And we've got very interesting results. We've confirmed 176 reports. Of course, there were much more results, but we confirmed only 176. It's not fake results, it's not an imagination, and so on. In 14% of all reports, people could not hear music. But in 86% of all cases, people were able to hear music. I didn't expect that it is so easy. I thought it is easy for experienced practitioners, but actually it is easy for everybody who experiences the phase state. In 16% of those cases, it was in low quality. In 63, almost 64% of all cases, people heard normal music. In almost 21% of all cases, people not just heard music, it was in amazing quality. So there's something in our brain that is capable to create music and high quality music. We asked people where they heard music, and in 17% people heard music inside their head. In 74% people heard music outside their head. So they heard music from the space, from the phase space. And in 8% of all cases, people heard music inside their brain and outside of it. It's interesting that for men, it is more than twice often to hear music only inside their mind. There's another difference for men and women. For example, low quality music was much more common for men than women. What else? When people heard music both inside and outside, there were much more chances to hear music in excellent quality. Maybe there's not enough of data, we don't know, but for this moment, it seems that if you are able to hear music inside and outside your head, you could get much more quality from it. Actually, we could predict it. And there's another amazing correlation. If you use the direct method for entering the phase state, you hear high quality music only in 12%, but if you become conscious while dreaming, it is 32%. For direct method, you need to lay down and experience the phase state. For indirect method, you need to wake up and experience it. And there's another way, becoming conscious while dreaming. It is 3 primary methods for entering the phase state. And now we see that if you become conscious while dreaming, you have much more chances to hear high quality music. I don't know why, and maybe in the future experiments we'll understand it much better. Of all, you can hear music in more quality by becoming conscious while dreaming. It is much harder to hear music at all. If people used the direct method, they couldn't hear music only in 8% of all their experiences. But if they were entering the phase state by becoming conscious while dreaming, they couldn't hear music in 18%. So for some reasons, it is much harder to hear music when you become conscious while dreaming. I think there's something related to our minds, to our memory, how it works. As it was predicted, if you have more experience in the phase state, you have better chances to hear music. People who entered the phase just 4 to 10 times could not hear music in 30%, but people who were in the phase more than 500 times, it is just 6%. So it's obvious that more experience you have, much easier it is for you to accomplish tasks in the phase. What are the outcomes of all of it? And first of all, it seems that everybody could hear the music. It means that everybody could be a genius. But for some reasons, we cannot use this resource in physical world. We can contact it, we can directly touch it, we can control it in the phase state. And our future experiments will help us to understand how to use this ability, how to control it. And by this simple experiment, we've proved that everybody has this amazing ability to create something that you cannot do in real world. In the future, we will perform many more experiments to research this topic. And if you have enough experience, take a part in our project. If you don't have enough experience, we can help you to get it. Have you ever wondered how your memory works in a lucid dream? Maybe sometime you even cannot remember your name. It was the very first experiment in Project Elijah. We started it in the beginning of December 2018, and we got a lot of reports. People were enjoying this experiment, and it was really interesting to take a part in it. Why? We asked people to enter the phase state and try to remember their names, their age, and their address. Why we asked this? We are going to create a map of our memory that works in the phase state, and it will help us to understand how our conscious works. We've got 181 confirmed reports. There were much more reports, but every time we try to see fake results, imagined results, sometimes people just don't understand what the phase is. Believe it or not, but in 24% of all cases, people experienced problems with memory. So almost every fourth time, people could not remember some obvious things. And the most important thing here is that it strongly depends on the method of entering the phase state. For example, if you enter the phase by the direct method, when you lay down without prior sleeping and enter the phase state, people experience problems just in 9% of all cases. But when you enter the phase upon awakening, it is the indirect method. They experience problems in 21% of all cases. And when you become conscious while dreaming, it is disaster, because every third time people experience problems with memory. So if you use the direct method, it's only 9%. If you become conscious while dreaming, it is 33%. And there is one strange thing. For example, for beginners, problems are normal in 28% of all cases, but for people with 100 and more, it is 42%. I have no idea how it is possible, but I see these figures now and I don't understand it. Maybe there's some mistake, maybe we have not enough of data, and in the future we will be able to understand it better. We didn't see any significant difference between genders, so men and women experience the same amount of problems with memory in the face, and we didn't see any difference between our memory and how phase ends. For example, you may fall asleep, you may just wake up, you may experience false awakenings, and there's no difference between how your memory works and the method. So consider all problems as 100%, and in 29% people remembered false address, in 5% false age and address, in 2%. It was hard for them to remember the address. They were able to remember it, but it was hard for them. It is 50%. Hard age, 7%, and hard everything, 7%. As we expected, address is a less important thing for our memory, and that is why people experience problems with it much more often. So, what's the outcomes of all of this? We have to state that our memory doesn't work well in the face. Sometimes we cannot remember just where do we live. Another interesting thing that it strongly depends on the method. It is obvious that when you become conscious while dreaming, you experience problems with memory much more often than using other methods. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't use this method, becoming conscious while dreaming, but you should be ready for problems. Don't forget that we are going to perform a lot of experiments in this direction, and we will try to create a map of our memory in the phase state. Don't forget that you can participate in this project. Project Elijah will help us to understand everything about this phenomena. Some people say they can stay in a lucid dream for hours. Some people say it lasts just a few seconds. What if we ask practitioners just to count seconds? Everybody is interested in this topic because every practitioner of the phase state wants to know how long he can stay in the phase state. And there's a lot of speculation about it. Actually, this topic is the most important one for every practitioner, because when you are able to enter the phase state, the first thing you have to work on is how long you can stay there. That is why we have maintaining techniques that helps us to stay in the phase as long as possible. But what is the natural duration of the phase state? There's no sense just for asking people for how long they can stay there, because in this case, people can say that they stay there for 5, 10, and even more minutes. Every experienced practitioner knows that 1 minute in the phase could be perceived as 10 minutes. Why? Because we experience there so many actions in this one single minute that our mind cannot believe that it takes just 1 minute. You can translocate in a few places in this 1 minute, and for your mind it usually takes a lot of time. That is why even 1 minute in the phase looks like 5 or 10 minutes. For this experiment, we asked people count seconds immediately after they separate from the body or become unconscious while dreaming. And at the same time, we asked them not to perform any maintaining techniques. So our goal was to know what is the natural duration of the phase. In the future, we will set a lot of experiments in this direction, but this experiment helped us to understand how much you can stay in the phase and how many seconds you can count there. It doesn't refer to real seconds, but it's interesting how many seconds people can count there. So what we've got? We've confirmed 187 reports. In 7%, people couldn't stay more than 10 seconds. In 21%, people were in the phase for 10 to 30 seconds. In 24%, people were in the phase for 30 to 60 seconds. In 15%, people were in the phase from 60 to 90 seconds. In 8%, people were in the phase from 90 to 120 seconds. In 15%, people were able to stay there from 2 to 3 minutes. In 5%, people stayed there from 3 to 4 minutes. It's a lot. In 1%, 4 to 5 minutes. In 4%, 5 minutes and more. We found no correlation between method of entering the phase and duration of it. We didn't see difference between duration of the phase and how it ends. And we didn't see any difference between experience, how experienced practitioners are, and duration. But there is a lot of correlations between gender and duration. For example, only 6% of men were able to stay in the phase for more than 3 minutes. At the same time, 17% of women were able to stay in the phase for 3 minutes and more. It is actually 3 times more. And for me, there's nothing unusual in this, because I saw this a lot on my seminars when working with people. It happens all the time that for women it is much more easier to enter the phase and stay there. What's another thing? 10% of men were in the phase for less than 10 seconds. At the same time, only 1.5% of women stayed there for 10 seconds. So it is 10% and 1.5%. And some other figures, we see that in 51% of all cases, the phase lasts just 1 minute and less. Only 10% of people were able to stay there for 3 minutes and more. But once again, we're talking about the phase without maintaining techniques. So in this case, people didn't try to stay there as long as possible. And there are a lot of experiments in the future in this direction, and we will compare the results. And one more thing, don't forget that 1 minute in this phase perceived for our conscious like 5 minutes, for example. It is obvious that this phenomenon is quite limited in experience. In 50% of all cases, you can't stay there more than 1 minute. But with maintaining techniques, it's much more. It's a topic for future experiments. What else? For women, it is much easier to stay in the phase longer. It is obvious. Our figures show this very clearly. And another amazing thing that you cannot train something in your head to stay in the phase longer. You can stay in the phase longer if you know how to do this. And that is why experienced practitioners stay there much longer, and we will prove it in the future experiments. But even experienced practitioners, when they don't try to perform maintaining techniques, stay in the phase exactly as beginners. It is amazing. You can train something in your mind. You can train yourself. You can understand some methods for maintaining the phase. But for your physiology, it's always the same situation, and there's no difference between beginners and experienced practitioners. So guys, don't forget that you can take a part in our research. Project Elijah is open for everybody. If you are able to enter the phase at least once per month, you can participate in our experiments. If you don't have enough experience, we will help you to get it. There's online school that works there, and actually we finance the project by this. So see you in the future, and believe me, there's a lot of extremely interesting results, and just in a few months, in a few years, we will know everything about lucid dreaming and out-of-body experience. So see you there. We've analyzed more than 1,000 reports of lucid dreaming and out-of-body experience. And now we can see some interesting correlations. I'm glad that there's no need for special experiments to understand what methods for entering the phase work better and how it ends, and if there are any correlations between gender, between your experience, between method entering the phase, between how it usually ends. Why we don't need special experiments? Because every time when people report the results in our experiments, they write about the gender, the experience, how it started, by which method, and how it ends. So every time when we analyze another experiment, we get more and more data. And by this moment, we have more than 500 confirmed reports. In the future, for example, in 1 year, there will be approximately 10,000 reports, and they will help us to understand a lot of things about the phase state. But even now, we can see some interesting correlations, and I'm going to share all of it with you. So we've got 546 confirmed reports. First of all, let's talk about methods of entering the phase state. It's clearly that in almost 45% of all cases, people get the phase by becoming conscious while dreaming. In 39%, people use the indirect methods. It is when you wake up, perform some actions, and experience the phase state. And only in 17% of cases, people were able to induce the phase state by the direct methods. It is when you lay down and perform some techniques, and then you enter the phase state. Talking about methods, I see some clear correlations between gender and the method. For example, the direct method was used only for 14% of men. Women 50% more often experience the direct method. It's quite interesting, it's obvious. Now let's talk about how the phase usually ends. More often, in 61% people are forced to wake up. In 24% people fall asleep. In 7% people prefer to return to the physical reality by their own wish. In 6% of all cases, some internal sounds wake people. Fake awakenings happen only in 3%. For me, it is the most unexpected thing, because in my own experience, fake awakenings is the most common thing. And I was really shocked when I saw these results. Let's talk about correlations between how the phase ends and method of entering the phase. We found one clear correlation, and there is nothing unexpected in it. If you become conscious while dreaming, you have 30% to fall asleep. For example, if you use the direct method, it is just 14%. For indirect method, it's 22%. And there's another result that was expected. The more experience you have, the less chances that you return to reality by yourself. We saw how experienced our participants. The most amazing thing is that even novice practitioners are able to participate in our experiments. For example, 1% of all reports were made by people who wear the face just 4 times and less. 11% by people from 4 to 10 experiences in their life. And there's another interesting thing, 9% for people who wear the face for 500 and more times. So 10% of all our participants are extremely experienced. We didn't see any correlation between experience and method of entering the phase. It's quite interesting because I thought there would be some correlations, maybe one of them, and it's quite strange. The more experience you have, the more chances that you will enter the phase by becoming conscious while dreaming. It is obvious that for this moment, becoming conscious while dreaming is still the most popular method for entering the phase state. I personally don't like it because other experiments show us that it's not the best way to experience the phase. Our memory does not work well, for example. But it is the fact, and maybe in the future there will be some changes. But now it is obvious that in 45% of all phase experiences, people become conscious while dreaming. At the same time, it is quite obvious that for women, it is 50% more easier to enter the phase by the direct method. We will correct this result in the future by getting much more reports, but even now we can see some correlations. I don't think that you should pay a lot of attention to this because actually becoming conscious while dreaming isn't the best way to experience the phase state. Yes, it happens a lot for me, for everybody, but it's not the best way. Don't forget that you can participate in our research. There's a lot of experiments and most of them are very interesting. So see you in Project Elijah. It seems we can obtain real information from lucid dreaming. What if we can try to win a lottery just by getting a winning number from a lucid dream? Actually, we've tried it. First of all, I need to remind you how we work. We gather all practitioners of lucid dreaming and out-of-body experience in one place. We give them some interesting tasks. Actually, we make research in different areas, and we need those practitioners. Then they report their results, and then we analyze it and we publish all the results. And in this case, we think that out-of-body experience and lucid dreaming and even sleep paralysis is the same thing. We call it the phase or the phase state. Almost every practitioner knows that you can obtain information from lucid dreaming. It is obvious because sometimes you just see something that has real sense in this world and you can use it for solving some problems in your life. But we need to prove it somehow. One of the craziest ideas to prove this is to try to win a lottery. And a lot of practitioners have been trying to do this for years. Even if it is possible, not every practitioner can do this. So we were trying to simplify it somehow, and we decided not to know a specific number, but at least to know whether it will be even number or odd number. A specific lottery on April 15th, and we asked all our practitioners just to enter the phase state and to see what first number will be. Is it even number or odd number? We couldn't ask for a specific number because in this case we would need a lot of results. But in this case it is 50-50 chance, and if there are difference, it would prove that it is possible or not. So we've got 170 reports. It's amazing that so many people decided to help us. 65% of all of them saw in the phase an even number. It was pretty stable result because we didn't find any correlation between the result and gender, the result and experience of practitioners. And of course, we didn't see any correlations between the result and the methods they used to enter in the phase state. It always was almost the same. 65% for even numbers and 35% for odd numbers. But the problem is that it was, guess what? Of course it was odd number. Actually, from the very beginning, this idea didn't sound good for me. I knew that this is almost impossible. Actually, it must be impossible. But I was just wanted to stop this speculation that it is possible to get information like this. But people always try to do things like this. They waste their experiences. However, they could do some better things and achieve better results. And by this experiment, I was just trying to stop this wasting of time, stop this speculation. Guys, look at these results. It is really impossible. You may ask me why it is not 50-50. It is simple, because if you ask people just to say even or odd number, mostly people say even number. That's the case. That's why most of the people saw even number. And that's the result of our experiments. No doubt that it is possible to obtain information from the phase state. And actually, we've been performing a lot of experiments in this direction, and you will see those results in the future. And by those experiments, we try to understand what's really possible. And by these experiments, I just try to see boundaries, what is possible and what's not. So in the future, you will see what's possible, but to win a lottery using lucid dreaming is a bad idea. No doubt that many of you won't be satisfied with the results. That's the reason why we get to perform some tests like this in the future. Maybe there's something we don't know. Don't forget that you can participate in our experiments, especially if you have some experience in lucid dreaming and out-of-body experience. There are a lot of experiments that are waiting for you. If you don't have experience, actually we can help you to get it. So just see you in the Project Elijah. You practice lucid dreaming, and that is why you think you're special, or you have a special ability, something special in your mind. Actually, you're wrong. There are billions of people like you. However, this research was performed not in the Project Elijah. I have to share it with you because it is very important for all of us. It's strange, but there are not too much research in this area. We can find some research for lucid dreaming, for sleep paralysis, maybe a bit for out-of-body experience, but for all together, you cannot find any specific research. And we decided to solve this problem and to ask people a lot of questions that refer to our topic. Don't forget that we think that lucid dreaming and out-of-body experience and even sleep paralysis are the same things. We call it the phase or the phase state. So our survey was aimed to know how many people have experienced the phase state. And we just went on the street and asked people. I must say that Oleg Kuyava assisted me in this research. We were making this project together, and thanks to all guys who helped us too. Almost 1,000 people participated in our research, and it's amazing that 89% of them have experienced the phase state at least once in their life. Moreover, 37% of them encounter the phase state often in their life. So it's not just happened for them, it happens all the time for them. When we asked about lucid dreaming, it appeared that 71% of people have experienced at least one lucid dream in their life. And when we asked people about out-of-body experience, it's strange, but almost 50% of people told us that they experienced an out-of-body experience. Maybe they're a mistake because it is too much. When we asked about sleep paralysis, we've got 24%. And this number helps us to understand that our research was pretty good, because in other resources it is almost the same number. When we asked people about false awakenings, we've got only 45%. Personally, I think that it is much more, because everybody experienced it. But maybe people just didn't remember about this. The result may shock you, but for me there's nothing unusual, because I've seen it for all my life, and every time I talk with people about the phase state, I see that they experience it in some way or another. I shared with you only preliminary results. We've got a lot of data. We've been still analyzing them, and in the future we will publish the paper with these results. And there are a lot of things. The most important thing here is that it is really widespread. It is billions of people. That is why we should research this topic, because it refers to everybody. Don't forget that you can participate in our experiments, and we have a lot of them. All you need just to be able to induce lucid dreaming at least a few times per month. If you don't have this experience, we can help you to get it. So, see you in the Project Elijah. LucidMe space always tries to mimic our subconscious expectations. What if we try to imagine in lucid dream that we are in reality? Before we start, I need to remind you how we work. We gather all practitioners of lucid dreaming and out-of-body experience. We call all these states the phase or the phase state. And then we give these practitioners some tasks to prove some ideas, to research something. Then these practitioners report their results, we verify them, we analyze them, and then we publish the results. Now I'm going to share with you some preliminary results from one of our experiments. In this case, we are in a search for the best way for deepening the state. What is deepening? It is some kind of techniques or methods that help you to achieve vivid sensations in the phase state. The problem is that sometimes in the beginning you can't see vividly, all the perceptions were bad, and you need to perform deepening to achieve hyperreality. Actually, your sensations in the phase state may overcome the real physical world. In this case, we've tested one of the most popular techniques. The idea of this technique is to fool the phase state. It mimics our expectations. And sometimes it's enough just to think about something and you get it. For example, if you're afraid of dogs, they will attack you. The same thing happens in ordinary dreams. But now you try to use it to get as vivid sensations as possible. All you need to do, just imagine that you are in reality. And in theory, the space should obey your imagination and your perceptions must be clear. So, does it work or not? We've got 152 reports. We've got much more reports. It's only verified because some practitioners made mistakes, they couldn't understand the task, or there was just imagination, not real experience. And you know what? In 50% of cases, this method worked. It's failed just in 21%. And in 29%, it was unclear did it work or not. For example, sensations were real from the very beginning and you just don't know would it help or not. And amazingly, in 30% of all cases, people could achieve hyperreality by using this method. And it means that this deepening is quite good. But at the same time, in 7% of all cases, the phase just ended when people try to perform this deepening technique. And there's another interesting correlation. For some reasons, this method works almost 50% better for women. Maybe everything works better for them because we've seen the same pattern almost in every our research. And one another interesting thing, even if you have a lot of experience, your success rate of using this technique cannot be higher than for novices. At least 50% of success rate, it's quite good. It means that you can use it. Every second time, it will help you to achieve better quality from your experience. It means you can stay there longer and all your application will have much more sense because sensations almost everything for us. We cannot say is it the best technique or not, but just for now. We're going to test every deepening technique and then we'll compare the results, and maybe in 1 year we will know what deepening technique is the best one. This is just the first test. If you have some experience in lucid dreaming or in out-of-body travel, you can participate in our research project, and there's a lot of tests and experiments. And if you don't have enough experience, you can sign in our project, and we will help you to get some experience, and then you will participate in our research too. So see you in the project Elijah. In theory, you get to be much more resistant to any kind of fear or stress if you experience it in lucid dreams. We've used virtual reality to prove this idea. This research has no correlation with Project Elijah, but anyways, I'm going to share the results with you because they are interesting. Before we talk, don't forget that we consider lucid dreaming, out-of-body experience, and even sleep paralysis as one single phenomena, the phase state. There's a lot of speculation about it, but let's state it like this. Our goal was to show that if you practice the phase state and you encounter there some kind of stress or fear, you should be much more resistant for it in real world. Actually, there are a few research about this, and we just try to prove it one another way using some unusual way for it. We've used virtual reality for it. We let people experience in virtual reality some stress, and we measured their heartbeat, and it helped us to understand how they react. In theory, there should be difference between people who have no experience in practicing the phase state and people who practice it. In this research, I was assisted by Olga Найденова and Vitaly Koval. Also, thanks to all people who participated in it. Thank you guys a lot. So we've gathered 39 people in Moscow. 19 of them were experienced practitioners, and 20 of them had no experience, or it was just some occasional cases for them. You may say it's not a lot, and you are right, but don't forget that it's not very easy to find a lot of practitioners and to gather them in one place in one time. So in this case, 20 experienced practitioners is quite good. The first problem was that men almost didn't have any problems with those experiences that they saw in virtual world. And we saw no difference in heartbeat. And that's the reason why we can't count men in this experiment. But for women, it is much better. The heartbeat twice more often jumped for 20 and more beats per minute. For this reason, we count only women in this research. We've seen that almost 60% of inexperienced women get high jumps in their heartbeat. It is almost 50% more than experienced women. So the more experience you have in lucid dreaming or out-of-body experience, the more you're resistant to any kind of stress that you can experience in real life. Sure, we didn't have enough of data, but that's all we could get. Maybe in the future we will perform some tests like this and we will get better results. But even now we see the more experience you have, the more resistant you are for any kind of stress. At least it is true for women. For men too, but we need to set another experiment Don't forget that you can participate in our experiments, especially if you have some experience in lucid dreaming and out-of-body experience. If you don't have it, we'll help you to achieve. Can lucid dreaming space be an interface for quantum-like computing? We've accomplished a simple experiment to demonstrate it's possible, and you can try it too. First, I need to remind you how Project Elijah works. We train people to be practitioners of lucid dreaming and out-of-body experience. We gather them on one resource and give them some tasks. After they report the results, we carefully verify them and then analyze. Doing so, we consider lucid dreaming, sleep paralysis, and out-of-body experience as one phenomenon that we call the phase state, because all of these phenomena people experience in the same physiological state. Our subconscious mind could be a great resource for computing, but we still don't know how to use it. We have internet, spaceships, tools to correct DNA, but we still have no idea how to deal with the resource that we all have in our heads. By small steps, we try to solve this problem by using the phase state. We've been performing a lot of experiments in this direction. It's just one of them. You may say, how do lucid dreaming refers to quantum computing? There's nothing in common. You're very wrong if you think this way. Let's keep all the details like quantum superposition and look at the core of quantum computing. It takes at once all possible ways to solve a problem and then instantly gives back one of the most proper answers. So it doesn't need to calculate which solution is better. It takes all of them simultaneously, not one by one as in classical computing. Now imagine you are in the phase state and you found a Rubik's cube. In this case, the cube would be very real in terms of perception. So now you've got billions of possible combinations to solve the puzzle. You may try to solve it as you usually do in real life. It would take a lot of time and brain work. But there's another way. You can hide the cube from your view. In this case, any object in the phase state loses its stability and transits to a superposition of all possible variations. And your clear intention becomes the key factor for the right combination that you observe when the cube is back. So you don't need to waste time and energy to solve a problem with multiple variations. You can just focus on a perfect solution and then observe the outcome. To make it more easy, consider a mixed Rubik's cube as a problem with many solutions and a solved Rubik's cube as a perfect solution for that problem. Instead of a Rubik's cube, you could put any other problem or real-life situation. So the phase space becomes a handy interface for quantum-like computing. Do you know that the absence of such interface is one of the biggest problems for real quantum computing? It's quite spooky, but we all have it in the phase state. In theory, it looks quite fascinating, but would it work in real practice? We asked hundreds of practitioners to find in the phase state a mixed cube and try to solve by taking a part from the vision. As a result, we've got 137 reports with this task. There were more, but we have a many-step verification system that help us to confirm on your real experiences. 4% of all practitioners couldn't find a Rubik's Cube at all. I suppose even more practitioners couldn't do it. They were disappointed, and that's why they just didn't report their story. Most importantly, that 33% of practitioners were able to solve the puzzle. Mostly it was very easy for them. And 67% of practitioners couldn't do it. Keep in mind, some of them were very close to success, but we counted only perfect solutions. We'll talk about these figures a minute later. Now I need to share with you some other interesting correlations. For example, the Rubik's Cube experiment went much easily for women. They were able to solve the puzzle almost 50% more often. There isn't enough of data, but when people became conscious while dreaming, it was much easier for them to solve the puzzle than when they used the indirect method, which helps to get into the phase upon awakening. It's worth noting that overall failure rate was the same for all methods. It seems we can really use the phase state as an interface for quantum-like computing. Our results clearly show it, but there are some nuances that we need to talk about. First, you may say that when you find a solved Rubik's Cube, it's just another object, solved one. So you don't solve the puzzle and there's no computing at all. You may be right, but think about this. What sense in computing when you have all possible variations and you need just choose the best of them? It's exactly what quantum computing is. Moreover, if you solve a problem that cannot be solved other ways, you won't bother yourself about how exactly it works. Don't forget that instead of Rubik's Cube, there could be any other problem. The idea of two different objects come from the physical world that exist by different rules. Very often, you should totally forget these rules to use the phase state. It is the same with quantum physics. Second, although what we encounter in the phase state is very close to quantum computing, it is something different, but works extremely similar way. Third, only 33% of our participants were able to solve the puzzle. Don't worry about this. Most of them never tried anything like that before, and they were very close to solve the puzzle anyways. With practice, you can solve Rubik's Cube in the phase very easily, and even many times in a row. The future is amazing. Who knows, maybe by using the phase state we will find the answers for all major questions in this world. Right now, in Project Elijah, we've been performing dozens of experiments in this direction. They will help us to understand how exactly this quantum-like computing works, how to use the phase state interface, what real problems can be solved and what could not. Wait for our reports to know all of this. Don't forget that you too can participate in our experiments. If you are already an experienced practitioner, all you need to do is to sign up and get your first task. If you don't have experience, we have a practical quest with all possible techniques and a lot of learning materials. All for free, and the links are in the description below. See you in Project Elijah. Every month or two, there's a lot of buzz about an upcoming device that will help people easily enter the world of lucid dreaming. Every time these gadgets look like they have great prospects, some kind of revolution. But once it's ready, nobody talks about them. Why? Let's talk about gadgets for lucid dreaming. We don't research topics like that at Project Elijah. We teach people lucid dreaming and out-of-body travel, which unite by one term, the phase, because it all happens in one physiological state. Once people are able to induce the phase, or they are experienced practitioners, we ask them to perform experiments that help us to understand the nature of the phenomenon. Every single day we analyze dozens of reports for our experiments. I communicate with hundreds of practitioners on other projects. I have been practicing the phase state for almost 20 years now, and neither I nor others use gadgets for inducing the phase state. Only in exceptional cases. At the same time, almost every month I read news about one project or another that should help us easily enter the phase state almost without effort. You can find a lot of them on Kickstarter, for example. There are already dozens of such gadgets, but almost nobody uses them in real practice. Apparently, they just don't work or work very rarely. It's strange because in theory every time these gadgets look amazing and it seems they must work. That's the reason why they easily gather funds on crowdfunding platforms. When I see this, every time I think, is it a phony, or do the authors just have no ideas what they are dealing with? The problem is that these gadgets cannot work, and I'm going to explain you why. Actually, there's a way to successfully use them, and we'll discuss that too. You should keep in mind that I'm going to talk about things that are obvious for any experienced practitioner, not just for me. That's the reason why any new devices for lucid dreaming creates many questions. To understand why, recall how these devices should work. Mostly they catch when you are in REM sleep and send you slight signals to let you realize you are asleep. In theory, you should hear, see or feel those signals and become conscious. It looks very simple and reasonable. I built a device like this when I was 18 years old. Back then I had no internet, and so I had no idea other people make things like this. Moreover, it worked the first night I used it. Can you imagine my emotions next day? I thought I had created something that will change my life. It seems the same thoughts occupy the minds of other people who create similar gadgets. The problem is that my device could not work the second night. Or the third one. It worked the very first night, but the second result came a week after. After a couple of weeks, I refused to use it at all. And it is the same story for every device I have tested in my life. It works at the beginning because your brain initially doesn't understand what's going on. That's why it lets you signal to your conscious mind. Then you interrupt your dream, maybe wake up and try again. Just a few attempts like this and your brain will learn the pattern, and that's when a sad story begins. From this moment, any specific signal to interrupt natural sleep becomes an enemy. Our brain will do its best to put up tough resistance. It will work in two primary ways. First, you won't perceive any signs from your devices, or you will wake up losing important intermediary states. Second, very often people lose their intention to do anything too. This process occurs so quickly that most practitioners cannot experience even one lucid dream. It makes no difference how good these devices are in theory, since their creators never keep in mind our natural resistance to unnecessary behavior. It's strange because you need just a few days practice to realize this. Doesn't that mean that creators of lucid dreaming gadgets don't try their products? I don't believe it. They know it won't work, but they sell you a beautiful idea that is missing a key part. Actually, there are two ways to operate with lucid dreaming gadgets that may help you to get some experience. Mostly, creators don't have real experience with this phenomenon, and that's why they almost never talk about these options. First, use these gadgets no more than 1 or 2 nights per week, and do this only in the morning to get more success. Second, these gadgets mostly wake up people, not make them lucid in a dream. Take advantage of it. You can use these awakenings for indirect methods, which includes a separation attempt and performing special techniques over the course of a minute after awakening. Check it out in my free practical guidebook. Links are in the description. Sure, sometimes lucid dreaming devices work, but even simple reading about the topic works too. We need consistent, reliable results to count something as working. Personally, I'm sure the future of the practice of the phase cannot but feature controlling the state using devices. Now it's much simpler to induce the phase state by your own actions, and that's the reason why experienced practitioners don't use any external help. But in the future, we will get a magic button that will do everything for us. To achieve this goal, we need to discover absolutely new principles. We need to understand the phase state better. We need to know our brain better. That's what we do at Project Elijah, and that's why you should not miss our next episodes. Don't forget that you can participate in our experiments. If you are an experienced practitioner, just sign up and get your first task. If you are a newbie, we have a practical quest and a lot of learning materials for you. Sometimes I make lessons to gather funds to finance the project. The links are in the description. See you on our project.